Most of us fail in life because we're afraid of what everyone around you is thinking. That's 100% truth. So we live by the narrative of other people. When I first called a recruiter to be a Navy SEAL and I was 297 pounds, the first recruiter looked at me and said, "You're not gonna be able to make this, man." So what he was doing was he's projecting his energy on me. He knew he couldn't be a Navy SEAL. So God helped this black guy, because I was only the 36th African American to make it through in over 70 years. And so a lot of us who are negative people, all we do is project how we feel on other people. So what happens is there's a lot of negative people walking around the planet Earth who are afraid to try. So we are afraid to fail. Why? Told you, man. Just chill out, relax. Why are you so crazy? Why are you so obsessed? So all that stuff drives the quitting mind, I call it. The mind wants to quit. The mind's tired. The mind's deserving. The biggest problem in this world is other people, not yourself. It's other people in your head. They are puppet mastering you pretty much on your life.
Need motivation?
Watch Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I struggled to stay afloat. I quit on my business partner, and the thing that kept me motivated, that kept me going, was studying the stories of famous, successful entrepreneurs. And in their stories, it gave me the hope, the drive, the ambition, the thinking that maybe I can do it too, that extra bit of belief. And I still need their stories today, and I'm honored to share them with you here as well. So today, let's learn from one of the best, David Goggins, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy.
I realized once I was talking to myself the right way and all this shit wasn't in my mind, wow, I went from this piece of shit kid who thought he was dumb, not successful, insecure, who stuttered when I first saw somebody, to a person who can now do all these things just because I now control my own mind. And I don't care. A lot of people say they don't care.
But they do.
They care like a motherfucker.
My son says, "I don't care." And every time he says, I don't care, it means he cares.
It means he cares.
Yeah.
When you get to the point where you really don't care,
You don't have to say
you're
it.
dangerous. You become very, very dangerous. I'm not saying don't care like, I don't care if I do that. No, when you don't care about other people and how they view you, about how you walk, how you talk, how you dress, where you want to go with your life. You know, growing up, I didn't want to tell anybody I wanted to be in the military. Because why? Some of my black friends, I was afraid of what they think. You know, why do you want to join the military, man? Why do you want to do that? I was afraid of what other people thought about me. So now, when I go in the military, I didn't know you want to join the military. Yeah, I didn't tell you because I was afraid of what you thought. Once again, man, you're allowing other people to shackle your mind. It's the worst thing in the world.
Rule number 2 is face your darkness.
What power have you found in the darkness?
First, before I answer that question, I want to say, everybody listening to this, I'm the happiest man on the planet Earth. So people may take this as so many people do. We live in a very weakened society. So when they hear a throwback guy like me from back in the ancient days of Garanimals, they often think this guy is just whatever. So if you think that I'm some unhappy guy, you're wrong. Having lived the life I've lived and seeing the other side, not being afraid to attack what was in front of me, has made me happy. Basically, what the dark side is we all have a cookie jar and we all have a jar of
That's its official name.
It's a jar of man, where it just ain't going right. And in Hell Week, what they do in Hell Week, because this is where I really went to the dark side. What they do in Hell Week is they design Hell Week to find your flaws. And they do a really good job of that. It's 130 hours of continuous training. You may get 2 hours of sleep. And they beat the shit out of you and find everything wrong with your mentality. And then they start Hell Week. And that's the beauty of it. And for me, I'm not some naturally God-given guy. I don't have a great bit of talent in anything. So what got me through horrible times was the dark side. My name is David Goggins. I created Goggins. Goggins is the guy that can take anything you put in front of him. You want to break my legs? So be it. I have a way of going to a place like I did in that race where all the pain and suffering that they put on top of me in Hell Week, I will reverse that pain and suffering and I will take your soul. So every instructor that put me through Buds, my job, what drove me, was I wanted you to go home that night after you beat the living shit out of me, and I smiled in your face. I wanted you to feel worse than I did, and you were going home to a nice warm bed with your wife or your kids and a nice meal, and I was still out there in the grip, suffering for another 100 hours. I wanted you to think about me knowing that I'm comfortable being very uncomfortable. And I want you to think about when you went through Hell Week, how uncomfortable you were and how bad you wanted to quit, knowing I'm not thinking that way. So the dark side is something that I've designed. It's an evil place I can go that very few things can hurt me. I use the hurt you're trying to put on me, I flip it upside down and use it. You trying to use it for kryptonite? No, it's power pillars for me. I'm using it for strength. I just flip negative into positive, that's all it is.
Rule number 3 is master your mind.
Every morning I wake up, it's not just about working out, but for me, working out has been a very big part of my mental growth. So for me, if I am not challenging myself every day, and I swear to God, people will not believe it, I was over almost 300 pounds twice in my life. A person that does that twice in his life does not enjoy cardiovascular activity, okay?
Yeah.
So people can put anything they want to in their head. I did realize one thing. The things I don't enjoy that I still do, that's where growth is at. And that's, for me, the only place growth is at, is in that very uncomfortable, in that uncomfortable zone.
Yeah.
So I have to visit it every single day. So
And when you say visit it every day, what sort of things are you doing daily to push yourself?
So for instance, today I woke up and I just got to London and I don't know where to run here. It's very difficult to run around this place. So someone said, hey, you can run around out here, like around this 1 mile block. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing that. So I went down to the gym and there's this like crazy elliptical trainer, but it's not a normal elliptical trainer. It's one that you like almost self-power. It's very...
Yeah, it's not electric. You
no,
do it. Yeah.
it's very difficult.
Yeah.
So I got on that thing and I realized, man, this sucks. And after like 2 minutes, I'm like, I don't want to do this. So right then I realized, it looks like we're going to be here for a while. So I did that for 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying do that, but that's something I did today. Once my mind said, you know what, let's not do this today. I said, well, since my mind went there, I redirected it and said, just for having that weak thought, we're going to be on here for a while.
Rule number 4 is ignore what others think.
What kind of advice can you give my team, anybody in the audience here who wants to do better, but it's just not happening right away for them?
You know what, the best advice I can give everybody about people who are trying to get started, people who are trying to get better at anything in life, the one thing that kept me down for so many years was I had these different voices in my head. And not that I'm crazy, and some of y'all may think that, I'm not. So basically the voice I had in my head was of other people who weren't trying to get where I was trying to get. And, you know, growing up the way I grew up, from having some people bullying me, from having disabilities, me bullying myself,
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Rule number 5 is take accountability.
Talk to me about the accountability mirror.
So the accountability mirror is something that I kind of came up with in high school. Like I said, I started shaving my head when I was 16. And I got caught up in trying to impress so many people because no one liked me. So I developed so many different identities. Let me sag my pants. You know, let me pull my pants up. Let me talk this way or act this way or be this way or whatever the hell it may be. God, dog, so many different things I did to try to fit in with so many different groups that when you look in the mirror, that's the one person you can't lie to. So every morning I would shave my head thinking, God, I would reflect back on some of the lies I may have told somebody or some of the ways I acted that I didn't feel comfortable doing. And I did it to impress other normal people. The key word there is normal, everyday people. I was trying to make other people like me. How pathetic is that? So this mirror would always tell me, my reflection would say, God, you are a pathetic man. How does that feel every day to be this way? So I would just start having myself accountable. How did I attack today? How did I attack yesterday? And if I didn't do something I was proud of, I'd write down a sticky note and I would fix it. So then my senior year in high school, it was a totally different David Goggins.
Rule number 6 is stay consistent.
My average workout day, so every single day of my life is very routine. I wake up and every single morning I run. I don't care if it's snowing, raining, sleeting, hurricane, tornado, I'm running it. Why? Because I hate to run. People don't believe that because some people told me to Black Forrest Gump. Yeah, I always tell jokes. You know, so he didn't smile. Let's laugh. Yeah, I do that. So basically, every day I do that. And I don't run inside. I don't run on treadmills. I'm not about being inside. Outside, because outside sucks. Horribly bad. It's hot, it's cold, it's cold. Then I go to the gym 4 to 5 days a week. And every single night, without fail, for the last 6 years, I have stretched out for 2 to 3 hours every night. If I get off a plane at 2 o'clock in the morning, I got to drive 2 hours to my hotel room, you can guarantee me one thing, I will be stretching out at 4 in the morning.
Rule number 7 is improve your self-talk.
I want to be a person that thrived under great adversity. I got obsessed with watching Rocky, Platoon, all these kind of war movies and these different movies of people going through adversity. And I always talk about what really changed my mindset was 2 minutes and 13 seconds. And I came home one day and Rocky was on, or I think my buddy had it on at his house. You know, he taped a whole bunch of movies and whatnot. They had these 2 VCRs and they would tape movies. And he was watching Rocky. And I was, Rocky 1 was on round 14. And I'm sitting there watching this guy who I wasn't familiar with, obviously, get knocked down. And everybody was telling him, his corner man was saying, stay down, all this stuff. And I saw the champion, who was Apollo Creed, turn around with his hands in the air like he had beaten this guy. And I saw this guy getting up and the music and everything was just perfect. It was like the perfect storm for me. The music was very inspiring. The moment with everybody saying stay down and he was getting up. And when I saw this guy get up, he looked like he was beat to shit, but he got up. And when I saw this Apollo Creed, I later found out it was Apollo Creed, turn around and see Rocky get up. All I remember was this great champion in Apollo Creed. I remember seeing his face, and not many people look at the face of Apollo Creed the way I did. I looked at it as, my God, man, this guy looks totally defeated. And he looks like defeated because he saw this guy get up, because and that right there was what I wanted to be. So it was like 2 minutes, 13 seconds, whatever it was, that clip, that scene it became my new mental vision. Is I didn't care about winning. I didn't care about any of that. I just wanted to go the distance. I wanted to have that kind of heart, that kind of character to continue getting up in life. And I realized I had to become very uncomfortable to develop that kind of mindset. I didn't want to be Rocky by any means. I just wanted to be the kind of guy that continued to fight and to continue to get up and not look for the easy way out. I wanted to find pride in myself because I saw pride in that guy, Rocky, just by getting up, just by the mere fact of getting up after getting the shit kicked out of him. And I wanted to feel that way. So that's kind of where it started for me. I wanted to feel pride.
Rule number 8 is never settle for mediocrity.
There's a concept in your book that it permeates the whole book, and I think really is one of the most important things for people to understand in their own life, certainly to understand you, and it's the notion of detesting mediocrity. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about that. How did you instill it in your life? How can other people instill it in theirs?
It's one of the biggest things in the world. A lot of us, mediocrity is everywhere right now. And we're all trying to find an easy way out, and we're judging ourselves. Let's say there's 10 people in this room, and we're all mediocre. But I'm the best of the mediocre people. I now think I'm great. I'm great. We surround ourselves around people that make us feel great. They tell us what we want to hear. The second we put ourselves amongst the uncommon people, we don't like that feeling. That challenging feeling of that person who's waking up at 3:30 in the morning and say, hey, put your shit on, we're going for a run. We don't like that challenge. We like that person who says, hey, you know what, man, I don't feel good today, man. And they say, oh, it's okay, brother. We'll take a day off, man. We'll get a pizza and watch the game. We like that. We love that feeling. Why? Because you understand, man, we're good, bro. We don't want that like this. Hey, man, no, bro. Get your shit on, man. Stop being a punk. We don't want that in our lives. We don't want that person who's constantly challenging our weaknesses. We want that person who's constantly, making us feel nice and good and secure in ours. That's the mediocrity of life. We want to be the best amongst the average people. People wonder, how do you stay hungry all the time? Because after I accomplish something, I don't sit back like a lot of guys who graduate buds, graduate this, graduate that. They get comfortable. They wonder why I'm getting weak, man. I don't know, I lost my edge. What's going on? Because once you hit the top of the mountain, guess what happened? I'm good. So you wonder why you're falling down now. Because once you reach the top of the mountain, you got to build another one. That's mediocrity. There's a lot of people in mediocrity who have a nice resume, but they're one-timers, man. They hit a one-time deal. They busted it open, got a lot of money, but they're good. You're mediocre now, man. What are you doing today, tomorrow, the next day? That's why I'm listening to theorists. I don't listen to all that bullshit. I listen to who's like this, man. What's wrong, man? I'm tired, dude. Why are you tired? Because tomorrow, I got to do the shit again, man. Whatever the shit is that made me nauseous and sick to my stomach, it made me hurt. There's no ending. And that's the person I listen to. That's the person who's gained knowledge. You gain knowledge through suffering. And on the other end of suffering is a world that very few have ever seen. It's a beautiful world because that's where you find yourself. You don't find yourself in over here. You find yourself on the other end. Like the 100-mile race I was on, I ran it for 24 hours. I found myself on the other end of that race. That 19 hours, I found, wow, there's a whole nother world out here that I've never even saw. But the world's in your mind. And that's what all that mediocrity is about. Mediocrity is contagious.
Rule number 9 is practice repetition.
How did you make the change and eventually get into the military?
Well, I realized with the learning disability, I was going to need a lot of help. So my mom, got enough money to pay $15 a week for 1 hour for a tutor to kind of come in and help me out. So my ritual became pretty much study, work out. Study, work out. And that became my whole life. So I went from this character to a very focused person. And the only way I can learn pretty much, even still to this day, is through repetitions. I had to put so many different reps in. It's absolutely unreal. And that's where my real work ethic began. People think it's because of my running and everything else and my weightlifting. It started with literally just trying to learn how to read and write. And I had to literally go to the store and we bought these I bought these spiral notebooks. And we only had, like I said, an hour a week. So it was going to take a lot more than that to learn all of school in 6 months. I had 6 months to learn all this to pass this ASVAB test. I failed it a few times before. So I had to get these spiral notebooks and I literally had to write down everything repeatedly in these spiral notebooks to put it to memorization. And how I would pass these tests is I really didn't know what they were talking about during the test. I just memorized all these different formulas and equations and just, different kind of spelling words and different kind of paragraph comprehensions and all these different I memorized all this stuff. And basically when it came time for the test, I remembered that I saw it on page 71 or 72 or 130 because I had written it down so many times and I could just recall it from that. So I literally developed a photographic memory through the kind of work I put in behind, my studies.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is control emotions.
Have you tried to control how you feel, how you react to people, anger, jealousy, hate, whatever, and trying some kind of mastery of that? Do you see that as different to the mind?
Jealousy, 100%. You have to, if you're jealous about anything, that is a horrible thing. Anger, I've done really well with controlling it nowadays. Back in the day when you're insecure. So all this stuff comes from conquering yourself. Once you feel good about yourself, all the anger, not all of it, we're human. Jealousy, these things start to really go away. She's like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm a very emotional person. So I'm very passionate because it took a lot for me to be who I am today. So I'm very emotional.
Yeah.
But it's just the passion in me about the sacrifice I put into being who I am today. So.
And sometimes that spills over. Sometimes you lose control of it.
It's not losing control. I allow it to go. So I got this award for the VFW called the Americanism Award. And I'm speaking in front of like 5,000 veterans. And I get the award and I'm thanking people and I turn back to my mom and I look at her and for 58 seconds just cried. Because I had a chance at that time to look and see what I've accomplished and where I came from. And I wasn't trying to hold it, but I had to get myself together to give my speech. But it was a very proud moment for me to be able to reflect and say, okay, man, you've, not like I've earned that right to cry or to be emotional, but it felt good that literally I grinded myself into a fine powder to get where I'm at today. And it just came out in that way. So yeah, emotion is a beautiful thing. You don't want to, if you're emotional, that's bad.
Yeah.
But if you show emotion at the right time, I think that's a beautiful thing.
So it's still an essence of controlling it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you have to, you want to be in control of your mind. You want to be in control of your mind. Emotional people, they're a wreck. They control, that emotion controls everything you do.
Yeah.
And what emotional people do is, like for instance, I always say this, they can have a beautiful life. Husband or wife, kids, everything they want. But it's the one thing that they don't have that makes them emotional. So that emotion makes them focus on what they don't have. Emotion makes them focus on everything negative, everything. Pity party, woe is me, this didn't happen. So your mind loves that. It loves talking to other people. Oh, this is all f***ed up, man. Think about it. People love to complain about everything. So when you're sitting there, you may spend weeks, months, years about the same thing. So what have you done? Nothing. There's no solution in that.
Yeah.
But most of us live there. Oh, this other guy got the pay raise. The other guy got this. The other guy got that. And we live in this emotional state of, woe is me. Nothing gets accomplished.
What I'm most impressed with is training the brain. Would you say to those of us that are listening and watching today that every time you would get through a day of Hell Week or just a day of training, whatever it was, that the mind does, almost like a muscle, the voice does change and you can train the negative voice?
The mind, as you know, is not a muscle, but it almost is.
Yeah.
It really is. Right. If you stop going to the gym, your muscles will atrophy.
Yeah.
If you stop training your brain, the same thing will happen. So I learned to callus over. I did 4,030 pull-ups in 17 hours to break the Guinness Book of World Records. Your hands become very calloused. Calluses protect your hands. Mm-hmm. What I learned to do is through mental hardening is callous my mind. Mm-hmm. I had a victim's mentality. I learned to callous my mind over the victim's mentality. And you have to be willing to put yourself in very difficult situations at all times to be able to do that. So my big takeaway of life is if you're constantly taking the easy way out, you're never gonna callous your mind. I was at MIT. They called a person like me to MIT to speak to some of the biggest head guys on the planet.
Oh yeah,
these guys.
Brains.
Oh, brains. So I was on this panel, and I'll talk about it in my introduction of my book. And all these brainiacs were there, and they called me in. Like you say, I didn't go to college for this, but they're all theorists. I'm a practitioner.
That's why I asked you. Absolutely.
That's the difference. And so they're all sitting there, all these great, smart minds from MIT are asking these brilliant guys questions. I ain't say a word. I'm like, I'm intimidated.
Right.
But I know that half of what they're saying is wrong. Because what these theorists did, even though they're very smart, what these theorists did was they took a poll on normal people. And this is what you get.
Of course.
This is what we cannot do. So theorists love telling you what we cannot do. This is what we can do.
Right.
So one person in the crowd asked me a question, why aren't you saying anything? I said, pretty much I disagree with almost everything up here on this panel because I'm living proof that everything that they're pretty much saying is not true.
That's right, because you were an average person.
I was a below,
sure.
below average person. I was a chameleon living in life who could barely get by. So I know that they were taking the normal mindset of people. They weren't talking about the 1%ers, the people who want it like there's no tomorrow. And so that's what I started realizing was we have theorists and we have practitioners. So what's in my book is from going into the dungeon. And when you're in those points where you want to quit and not quitting and seeing how the mind starts to operate in those moments of fear, anxiety, self-doubt, insecurities. And that's where you learn to fix it.
Yeah.
You don't fix it in 72-degree weather.
Right.
Drinking a milkshake, watching TV. You fix it by going into the environment. There's always a blockade. There's a barrier in your brain. There's a barrier. You got to find out what kind of removes that barrier from your brain. My biggest barrier was my father. And once I removed that barrier, I was free to think. And once I felt good about myself, I was free to put action in. I never felt good about myself. I never felt good about myself. Whenever I would get somewhere, the demon would come back, put me right back in the cage. If you don't go back, like I'm a runner, left knee hurts. A lot of people focus on that left knee. A lot of times it's your right hip. And that's about life. You got to figure out what has messed you up mentally.
Go to the source.
Go to the source. Go to the origin of the source.
Like peeling an onion, strip it down.
And that's what I did to myself. So that, that whole accountability mirror.
Did you do it on your own? Did you do it with any help?
Every single thing I've ever done that's in that book or anywhere else was on my own. Everything. How far can the mind go? How far can we go as human beings? So that's, I call myself the Stephen Hawking's of the mind. He was obsessed with everything he ever dove into. The guy couldn't walk or anything, so he was like, the mind, that's one thing he didn't want to lose. And I became obsessed with it because it's the one thing that controlled me. So I became obsessed with this, what is this thing up here that just has me on a tightrope and just walks me into all these horrible decisions I make and makes me feel so pathetic and weak and insignificant and dumb and stupid and everything. I got to get control of this thing. But it's amazing that once you get control of that thing, how far you can go. When I left, I was young. I had a young kid's point of view on my father. So when I was 22 at 300 pounds, I went back to see my dad. Because I wanted to make sure that what I saw at 8 is the same vision, because it's my father. I don't want to not talk to my father, no matter what he did, no matter what I saw, but was it through a young kid's eyes? So at 22, I went back. And I was able to examine him as a man, as a fragile man that I was.
Sure.
But I was able to examine him. And through this process, by this point in my life, I was examining myself and realizing I have a whole mess of problems. Big time. Some were from him. Some were for people that bullied me. A lot were from me. And in knowing how messed up I was able to examine everybody around me. I examined him. And I examined him to know, my God, the insecurities that you must have, the problems that you must have inside of you, I don't want to have those. I come from my father. I have what he has. And I didn't want to be him. Why he made fun of me, my brother, why he beat the hell out of me, my brother, and my mom. It comes from a dark place, an insecure, dark place. Why he womanized, why he sold prostitutes, why he ran, all this stuff he did. A good human being doesn't need to do that. A fulfilled human being doesn't need to break anyone down. All they do is want to build you up. So anybody you meet that calls you out of your name, that bullies you, that messes you up, that makes you feel not lifted, they are dealing with something deep-rooted. Yeah, you have to have a tough tone with some people to help them out. There's a difference. You have to be hard. I'm hard on people, but it comes from a good place.
Yeah.
The biggest lesson he taught me was how not to be. And that's why I had to fix what I was. Because insecurities make everybody around you feel like hell. And that's the one thing I did not want anyone to feel like. That's why I judge no one. Tons of whites have called me nigger. Tons of people have hurt me. I judge no one because I know where it comes from. I know you. I was once you. That's why now the place I'm at, you get a get out of jail free card. You need to help yourself. You ain't bullying me, man.
Right, you're fine.
I'm good.
Whatever you throw at you,
I'm good.
You're like,
I know what's wrong with you because I was once you.
right.
So I started to examine people, examine myself, examine my darkness, realizing how I cannot be, but I got it from examining him. Saying I cannot be that.
What does a morning look like for you at the moment? Have you got a routine of some kind?
Yes, I run every single morning. So that's
what time are you up? When are you waking up?
I'm up about 5:30. So every morning starts with a run. And that's because that's the one thing I hate to do more than anything in the world. So that's like my cup of coffee. And I'm all about armoring yourself. So the second you leave your house and the second you open your phone, the second you do any of that, you are now letting in poison and cancer. So I make sure a lot of things you can't avoid. So as I get up, I start to armor plate my mind and body. Like a person's going to war, you put your body armor on. That's what I'm doing on that run. I'm waking up and I'm giving myself all this armor. So when I come out in the world, now look at that phone, I'm ready. I'm not waking up late. I'm not rushing around. I'm not disorganized because I know I'm going to get hit in the mouth. There's an art to getting hit in the mouth. And that is why these things are important. You have to wake up and you have to give yourself belief. You have to give yourself confidence. So it starts with that run. A lot of us are being forced into solitude right now in our homes, apartments, wherever we live. But we're also being forced into solitude in our own minds. Life is the most brutal endurance sport of all time. And that's what we have to love about it. We have to flip it on its head and love the fact that life continues to attack us. There are no timeouts. You can't just go like in a sporting event when the coach doesn't like something, call timeout. You have to figure shit out on the fly. You have to be that person who's always prepared. But the solitude right now that a lot of us are dealing with is what we don't want to deal with. It's the fact that we have to think about all these things that we don't like about ourselves. We like to use life as a big escape. That escape is not there anymore. All these distractions that we use, they're no longer there. This is the time right now for you to stop avoiding things. Get that pen and paper out. Look inside yourself. Stop looking at me or other people out here to be the hero of your story. This is time for you right now in all that solitude to get to know who you are as a person. Be alone with yourself. Write that shit down. Start to face these different things in life. Knowing one thing in life, we are all very fragile in this world. We have to know that when we die with some meaning and some purpose in this world. Stay hard. I wanted to be an expert in the mind, a mental toughness guy, beyond mental toughness. The only way to do that, in my eyes, is to put yourself in hell. Put it in hell repeatedly. Repeatedly put yourself in hell and study how you process it. And that's how I was able to come up with all these different ways, all these different tools to slow the mind down in hell. Because the mind just speeds up. The mind wants to get out of the painful situation, the suffering. It can't process it. So that's what I realized by going through all these different processes of being in hell weeks. You know, it's just that.
I love that, man.
How
That's
the mind
amazing.
processes in hell.
Were you ever scared that you would lose the processing ability to be able to coach yourself through it? Were you ever scared when you were there?
I was, there's some times where the mind gets overwhelmed and you cannot slow it down. But by these certain tools I developed, by not allowing your mind to get away from the moment. You have to think about the exact moment that you're in. But I saw when I was younger, the moment became too big. When it became too big, I spazzed out and I would quit. But now I don't think about even like an hour from now, I'll be eating. I don't even go there. Because then your mind, no, we must embrace this because now you have to be a leader in this moment. It's not about you just getting through it. I had 5 guys, and 6 including me, in my boat crew. Now I was the boat crew leader. So now another trick is this. If you don't think about yourself, there's no pain. Which can also lead to pain later on in your life. But in these moments when you're struggling, if you are a true leader and you're worried about your men or women beside you, your mind doesn't care how cold you are anymore. Your mind's only worried about taking care of the men and women beside you. So I started realizing, man, if I take care of these cats to my left and my right in the worst moments, my mind is no longer thinking about, you're miserable, David Goggins, get the hell out of here. You're thinking about, how was John? How was Andy? How was Sam? How was Pete? How you guys doing? You're not thinking about me. So there's so many things you can do to get outside your own head to then allow your body to just be like, hey, we're just a machine. But you have to let your mind be able to process all these different tactics to do that. Take a different vantage point in life. When you are in the hell, you can't see the beauty of being in it when you're in it. Get on top of that mountaintop in your mind. Get on top of that mountaintop and look down on what you're doing. You can see a whole different world, and that world is beautiful. But you gotta get a different vantage point in the suck. Don't be in it. Spiritually, get out of it. Get that soul. Look down on what you're doing. Be amazed by the process of where you're at now and where you came from. The problem that most of us have is we think that we're all alone. We think that we're the only ones going through all this stuff. I thought it. Most of us think that if you're fat, which I was fat for a while, you think you're the only fat person in the world. Your vision becomes very narrowed. And what happened to me was, all I did was I peeled back. And I was able to get on top of a mountaintop in my head. And when you're high on that mountain, you have a great vantage point. And I was able to look down at the world. And all of us are jacked up. Some of us hide it better than others, but we're all jacked up. And once you realize that, you got to come out of your shell. You got to accept who you are. You got to accept the demons that life gave you, that maybe you gave you. Whoever gave them to you, you got to accept that. You got to be able to look them in the mirror, look them in the eye and say, okay, I'm going to start fixing these things. But if you think that you're by yourself, the reality of your life becomes very, very horrible. And you're not. We are all jacked up. And once you realize that, man, it's like whatever. You don't even look at the crowd anymore. You look at your own race, you do your own race, you do your own thing, and you finally find out who you're supposed to be in this life.
What's your morning routine?
Every morning, without fail, the first thing I do is I run. Without fail. I haven't missed a day of running since 2016.
Okay.
So I get up, I do that. 4 days out of the week, I go to the gym, and every single night for 5.5 years, I stretch out for at least 2 hours.
That was a killer part of the book.
Every night. That's where so when you go so hard, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, you have to have time set aside to quiet and recover. Recovery's big. The mind, especially the mind and the body.
Yep.
This is my time. There's no phone calls. There's no emails. The world does not exist.
Yep.
Because I have to get ready for tomorrow.
Yep.
Get the body opened up. Why? Because as I won't get too
you
deep
went
into it.
You went deep into the book. It was awesome.
But your body's getting tight.
Yeah.
You go hard, Tom.
Yeah.
A lot of people go hard. What happens is that stress starts to tighten up that psoas muscle.
Hip flexors, psoas,
So
lower
bad.
back. You got back problems all of a sudden. You have no idea
That's
why.
right.
It's all tightness.
It's all tightness, man, because you're constantly charged and going hard. If I can flip these insecurities upside down, if I can flip this fear, if I can flip all this that made me this depressed, insecure guy, if I can flip it and make it work for me versus against me, I started seeing the power in failure, the power in insecurity, the power in self-doubt. Because I looked at everybody, it may not be true, but that's how I looked at everybody as being way above me. I thought to myself, if I can be at the lowest part in the world, in the sewer, and be able to overcome all this, I started using that as power. And I slowly started passing the guys from Harvard, the guys from MIT, the guys who were from great families. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm catching up. I had nothing. So I started flipping it and using it as power. My dad beat me, this happened. I mean, my dad ran prostitutes, man. My dad literally snatched the soul out of my mom. Like, my mom is still battling. Like, after my mom left my dad, and this is what I'll talk about in the book, she got married 3 times for a total of 6 months. I don't go there. I'm not even gonna talk about the guy she married. So this woman she's beautiful. She's so smart, all this stuff, man. This guy literally stripped her soul away. And I was a young kid watching it. And I had no soul to begin with. And my brother, he has a story that he could write 8 books. My dad just came through and just washed us all clean. So to come out.
Is he still around?
He died about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not for sure. I didn't go to the funeral, but I forgave him. So I saw my dad through an 8-year-old's eyes. So we left when I was 8. And then at 22, I went back to see him through a grown man's eyes. And he was the same person I remembered. But I had to. You can't live with hate. You cannot move forward. As much as that guy tried to ruin all of our lives, that's where I came from. I had to figure out the origin of where I started from. So when I was going back through my life trying to fix who I am, the person I was, like, if your knee hurts, it's usually not your knee that's hurting. There's something else, man. Like, it could be a tight quad. It could be the right leg if it's the left leg. You got to find out the origin of where all this began. And it was him. So I had to go back to where, my roots and the origin of all this happened, and it's hard to do that.
Did you make peace with him?
I made big peace with. So we didn't have a peaceful conversation. We left very Garanimal. He's a vicious man. He was a vicious man. I mean, medieval. So I had become a medieval at that time. I was 22 and I was the big boy, and so I was no longer the guy who was afraid. It was now like, hey, I want to kill you type of shit. And we were sitting at Denny's after an all-night skate or whatever the hell, he owned bars and skating rinks like that. And so we were sitting down and we kind of got into it, and I just kind of left. But I had to make peace with it in myself. I could not hold on to that hate, because holding on to that hate was half the reason why I kept falling into the same pattern of failing.
There's like this allure that you have where it's with anything, any type of keynote from David Goggins, any type of video from David, podcast. What do you think it is? What do you think it is that attracts people to your content?
I think it's my take it or leave it kind of mentality.
where I don't really think about your feelings. I don't really care about what you think or what you think about me, or if you're soft, if you're weak, if you're hard, if you're an alpha, if whatever the hell you are. I just don't really care. And I'm going to say what I believe is going to get you better. It may make you pissed off at me in the interim, but in the long term, if you really think about what I'm saying things to you that I had to listen to and, tell myself. And it's just sometimes hard truth sucks.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome.
For 50 more amazing rules from Eric Thomas, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
You don't really even get to the next level to your darkest moment. So that's why I'm saying stop tripping when it get dark and you running. You running from your success. Like that's what you running from. So it took me 12 years to get a 4-year degree. I never quit because I realized